listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
I'm going to say iterations so many times. Well, hey there. Welcome back. Do you know what an iteration is? And do you know what it means to work iteratively? Wow, that's not easy to say. An iteration is a version, right? And you may think, oh, it's just a version of something. You did it again or what have you. Well, but it's more than that. It's a version of something that builds upon the previous version, but it's also a separate version. Let me give you a couple examples. If you're making a cake, you may say, okay, chocolate on the inside, I'm going to do vanilla frosting, and I'm going to do some fun sprinkles on the top. After creating that, you may think, oh my God, this would be so much better if I did raspberry filling. So then you bake another cake with the raspberry filling. Everything's mostly the same, and you think, well, there's a couple things on the top I'd like to do. So the second cake is your second iteration of this cake that you're trying to perfect. The problem is you can't make the cake and go, oh, I think I'll just replace the inside. You're not going to peel off the frosting or anything else. It is what it is. Now let's think of somebody who creates videos. Somebody who works in videos or even programming is going to be able to say, you know what, every time this scene comes up, we need to change the light level. We want to speed this up. We're going to apply this effect all throughout. And then you're able to do that. And you make that change on top of the other changes. You don't have to create the whole work and say, okay, I'm going to start from scratch. You can actually build it upon what you've already done. Most things in life are iterations. You work iteratively, and you work iteratively on yourself. You are a version of yourself that has been built upon previous versions. And like the video editor, you're building upon a previous version, but you really only have one version to work with, yourself. And hopefully you continue to work and improve in some areas. In some areas you add things, and in some areas you change things, and even in some areas you delete things. As in the case of the videographer, the person who sees the movie isn't really aware of all the other iterations. They don't know what they took out. They don't know what they put in. They don't know what they adjusted. Just like when someone meets you for the first time, and you've been around for a bunch of decades, they're going to see that iteration of you. They're not aware of the fact that you lost a bunch of weight, that you have more self-control, that you have a different career, that you have a different kind of commitment and outlook on life. They're not going to see all the improvements. They're just going to see you. See, we forget about this when we present ourselves to other people, or even when we look in the mirror. You know, we constantly are trying to improve and we see our flaws and things, but we really don't remember just how far we've come. Getting back to the movie, if you've ever watched a movie and then either watched the director's cut or you've watched deleted scenes, you become painfully aware of how different that movie could have been. More often than not, the deleted scenes were deleted for a very good reason. If you see a movie with a deleted scene, it's rather jarring. You'll look at it and go, oh, okay, that would change the pacing. Oh my God, what if they kept that in? That would change that whole character. Or that just changes it. That's terrible. So we just see the final product, just like people see you as the final product as well. But you're never really final, are you? Because you're continuing to iterate. Though the cake, the movie, and yourself are tangible, there are some things in life that you iterate that may not be as tangible. One of them is your relationships. The relationships you have with people, whether it's personal or professional or a mix of both, are iterations. For example, if you meet someone for the first time, you're not going to start out with saying, yeah, so my childhood. You're going to build with familiarity and with cordial things, and then you'll iterate on top of that with deeper and deeper things, and then you'll become vulnerable and so forth. In business, you're going to present that elevator speech that you think will present your idea to them. And sometimes you may have some difficulty presenting yourself in just a sentence. I know I do. That's one of my problems. Your client or potential client is going to present to you what their need is. And again, it's going to be with a broad brush. But then as you get to talk to them, as you get, and if you're lucky enough to get to know them and work with them, you start to see much more nuance to what their needs are. Where they say, well, yeah, I was going to mention this, but I didn't know if you did that. And it's kind of an esoteric thing, so I didn't even know if you'd get it. Oh, you do that too. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I only led with that because nobody knows what I'm talking about if I say this other thing. And then you start to get more and more nuanced on top of it. But again, it's an iteration because it's built upon the previous thing. And that's why they don't lead with it. And that's why you don't lead with it as well. So by realizing this, by being aware of this, and you know me, it's always about awareness first. By being aware of this, it makes it a lot easier and more tolerable to go along with how that works. It's not an instant thing. And I guess another way of saying this is trust the process. And when someone says to you, trust the process, they're telling you to give up a certain level of skepticism for zero reward. And I say that because they never say, trust the process because X. They just say, well, trust the process. Well, no. I would like to think that what I'm telling you has a lot more meaning. If you say, we are living iteratively, I work iteratively, I'm building iteratively with my clients, with myself, with my relationships and everything. It's all built upon the previous version. I couldn't have done this if I hadn't built this other thing. I couldn't improve this skill if I didn't introduce it a year ago, and so forth. If you think of it that way, it's a lot easier to go with it. It's a lot easier to quote unquote trust the process if you actually understand what the process is all about building upon previous iterations. I, for one, am actually very excited about the iterations of myself. I look back, I look forward, and I think to myself, I'm a very different person in a lot of ways than I was a few years ago, a decade ago, 2 decades ago. And I can say that in a way that doesn't make me feel like I'm schizophrenic and I'm flipping around in different versions of myself, like a secret identity. I'm building upon what I like about myself. I'm trying to minimize and understand the parts of myself I'm not thrilled with. And I'm trying to add new, exciting things all the time because I'm very open-minded on adding skills and moving forward. By the way, even some of my podcasts are iterations. There are times in which I've recorded an entire podcast episode and gone back and went, you know what? It's just too much to change. I'm going to have to go and re-record it. And I record it and it's very similar to the previous one, but I got some things right that I didn't think I got right. Or I was able to express myself in the 10-minute limitation I put upon myself that I wasn't before. And I'm always striving to be more concise. And I'd like to think I continue to iterate in the direction of giving you tangible stuff in a very small piece of time because I respect your time quite a bit. And what did we learn today? We learned that we live life iteratively. We typically work iteratively, and especially people in the creative space. And you know, I have a soft spot for creatives. People in the creative space typically work iteratively. You work iteratively in your life and then your relationships, business and personal. You work iteratively when you build skills. And like I said before, when you build yourself. So I'm behind you in building yourself iteratively, living your life iteratively. It's an interesting and frankly exciting way to look at things because it tells you that you're not starting from scratch, that you have a foundation previous. And I have a few episodes that actually touch on that. One is from a long time ago in which we sort of look at our failures, and our failures tell us really where our successes are, the direction that we've gone in. And that's an iteration. I mean, you can iterate failure into success. I appreciate you listening, and I iterated into 10 minutes. Take care. Thank you for listening. I love your feedback as always. Keep it coming. I always appreciate if you like, share, subscribe, and all that nonsense. And if you don't, that's cool too. By now, my new novella, The Devil's in the Details, has hit the shelves. If you like a smoldering, quick read, then you may love reading The Devil's in the Details. Check